Hello everyone. On this lesson we're going to be computing payroll deductions. So it can get a little tricky sometimes whenever we do this, so you just want to be sure and practice plenty. Okay, so first we're going to talk about Fica, which is Social Security and Medicare basically put together into one term or one expression, I guess, Federal Insurance Contribution Act. So we contribute both Social Security and Medicare. Notice that it says below this little chart, right, in yellow, earnings above $118,500 per calendar year are not taxed. In 2017, the base changed to $127,200. We're going to work with the $118,500. It kind of just depends on what charts they used in the book, and so that's what we're going to do. So you pay 6.2% of any money you earn until you get to $118,500. And then on Medicare, whoops, I just noticed that I left off a percent. Let's put a percent right there. Here, I'll make it look better. I have white. Okay, well, 1.45% for Medicare. You know, I worked this out on my my own PowerPoint slides and didn't notice that I left off that percent. And so that doesn't matter. No matter how much money you earn, you're going to pay 1.45% of your earnings. Your gross pay is going to go to Medicare. All right, so let's look at a few examples here. So we're really just calculating Social Security and Medicare for different pay periods and for amounts earned so far. So we call this amount in this column the year to date, right? Year to date. And that's just something that's a quick thing to talk about. So if the year to date earnings are this much, then we have to figure out, okay, how close are we to the cutoff of the 118,500? So how much do we have to pay for this particular example? So let's look at that. To figure this out, you simply take the 118,500 and you subtract your year to date, right? What you have earned so far this year. And you'll see that the difference is only $200. So we're almost there. $4,000 is going to put you way over. You don't use the $4,000 to calculate this part. You're just checking to see how far away am I, because that's all I have to pay Social Security on for this paycheck. And so we'll multiply that by 0.062. Remember, we're always going to change percents to decimals. And we get 1240. So Logan is going to owe $12.40 to Social Security for this check. And then for Medicare, you pay on the full $4,000. That was his pay for this period, right? And that's 0.0145. Which is a fairly small percentage, but you know, depending on how much pay you make, it can add up. And we see that that's going to be $58 if you multiply that. Remember to pause if you want to do your own calculations on these. Sometimes I feel like I may go a little fast because I already have them calculated ahead of time. And so Medicare is 58. Now, if I said what is FICA, then we would add those two together. 1240 and 58 would be $70.40, and that would be the FICA if you were asked that question. Okay, let's go to the next one. So the second employee has earned so far this year $112,700, and so we're going to just check this and see. It seems like they're probably far enough away from it, but they did earn $6,000. So we definitely have to check that, right? How close are they to the 118,500? And so we're going to subtract 112,700 and see, you know, so if that's over $6,000 that they would pay on the full amount. But this one actually is a little bit below that. It's 5,800. So that means that they will just pay on $5,800 instead of $6,000. So they got off by about, they didn't have to do $200 worth of their gross pay. So we multiply it by the 6.2%, and it's 359.60. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chart. And then we'll figure Medicare on the full amount, right? So we have $6,000 times our Medicare percentage in decimal form, and that's $87. Okay. And then we have the third employee. Whoops, I thought I changed that. Okay. Line 3. This time they're at 200,000, and so they're already over the 118,500. So they will pay 0 Social Security, right? Because once you get to that cutoff amount, you don't have to pay anymore. Now, their earnings are $7,000 for this pay period, and they will have to pay their Medicare, which is $101.50. Okay. So Social Security and Medicare. They're not really hard calculations. The big thing that students get hung up on sometimes is that 118,500 part and how to deal with that. But guys, all you really have to do is subtract their year to date at that point from 118,500. If it's less than their pay amount, right, that's what you calculate on. If it's more than their pay amount, then you just calculate it on their full pay. So, like number 2, if that had been 6,200, then we would just calculate on the 6,000. Okay, so sometimes you need to practice that a little bit to really understand. So this may be something that you recognize. It's the W-2 form, and this W-2 form is basically filled out whenever you are employed so that you can tell them what allowances you want to take, and also if you're going to claim as single or married. Okay, and so on this form they're married and they're going to claim 2 allowances, and this just reduces the amount of your federal income tax, but you need it for that, right? Okay, so now we're going to talk about the percentage method of calculating federal income tax withholding. And you can see that we have this great big chart here, and you may or may not be able to read it real clearly. You can, make your screen bigger though, and that would help. This chart is split into 8 parts, right? The whole left column, right? This part right here. That's single, right? So that's single over here. And then this side is married. So right off the bat, you split it. Like if you're working with a married person, you only need to look at the right-hand side and single the left-hand side. Okay. Then you go with how often are they paid, and you will see that the top part, right here, is weekly, bi-weekly. I kind of ran over that with my marking here. The middle 2 are bi-weekly, semi-monthly, and then monthly at the bottom. So you have to pick the right chart out of the 8 possibilities and then find the correct line on that chart to really get your calculations right. Okay, take those off. And then the allowances right here, all of these allowances tell you how much you can deduct from gross pay before you go to the federal table, the percentage table. So you use this chart first, right? This one is first, and this one is after that when you've taken that amount out of their gross pay. All right, so let's see if we have time. I think we have time to do one of these. Okay, so this is Mike Rice. He is married and he claims 3 allowances. And so the very first thing we do is we take gross pay and subtract the number of allowances. So basically you take $1,400 and you subtract 3 times $76.90. Because he gets to take off that much money from his pay, right? And so that gives us $1,400 minus $230.70. And so this is something we can call taxable wages. This is the amount that we go to the chart with, right? So we're going to find, where does this fit, right? Where does this fit on this chart? And so once again, you might want to increase your screen, but you also can find this chart in your book. And so 1,169.30 is going to fit right here on the second line. Notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different categories on there, right? Lines where we're figuring this amount. Okay, so we take this and it says $3,550 plus 15% of the excess, notice this part right here, over $520. So the calculation's a little tricky, right? So $3,550 plus 15% of the amount over, let me just write that out, of excess over $520. I made that extra line. I'll have to make sure I don't make, I keep my other ones small enough. And so it's $3,550 plus, we're going to change this to a decimal. To find the excess, we take the gross pay, not the gross pay, the net, the pay, the taxable wages, not gross because we took some out of it, right? And we subtract the $520. And then we'll calculate 15% of that on the next step. So we take $3,550 plus 15% of, when we subtract, we get $649.30. All right, so of excess over means we have to only pay 15% of whatever amount of our check is over that $520, but after we've taken out the allowances over here. Okay, so 15% of the $649.30 is going to be $97.40. I mean, there's a trick to just getting through all the calculations on this, as you can see. So, well, I'll just leave that. We get $132.90, and I'm going to go ahead. We call this Federal Income Tax Withholding, FIT is our abbreviation on that. So it's going to be $132.90. Okay, so I showed you one of these. I have some more for us to calculate on the next video. So we'll go to that and after I close this one out and start a new one. All right, bye everyone.